The Las Vegas Raiders could hire Broncos quarterback coach and pass game coordinator Davis Webb, and I'm going to tell you why. My name is Mitchell Renz. You're watching the Raiders Report. And if you didn't see the video that I dropped early this morning, because where there's smoke, there's fire, and there is a lot of smoke right now around the Silver and Black hiring Davis Webb. The reason why I bring this up is because right now Webb is in Las Vegas, and he's getting ready for his second interview with the Silver and Black. He also has a Zoom meeting today with the Buffalo Bills, but that's only a Zoom meeting. Webb also was very impressive in his very first interview with the Raiders back on Wednesday, January 7th. I know for a fact that Mark Davis, when he wants something, he goes out there and he tries to get it. The fact that the very first interview for the Silver and Black was Davis Webb could be very telling. But I know this. There is a lot of things going on in the NFL, and I said it in a show, and it's very, very important for y'all to realize this. This is why I want you to hit that subscribe button. It's why I want you to turn on those notifications. I'm not a beat reporter, but when I get information sent to me that I think Raider Nation would want to hear, and I hope with all the stories that I've been able to break this year that you guys are starting to believe, like, holy shit, this guy's going to stay on top of it. It's why I want you to hit that subscribe button. Also, you're going to learn a thing or two because timing is everything in the NFL. And I was talking about some moves that happened today around the National Football League that, honestly, I think could really be a reason why the Raiders end up hiring Davis Webb. But let's talk about the timing of this interview. So the fact that the first interview was on January 7th, that's interesting to me. He is also the first in-person interview that the Raiders have after missing on Jesse Minter. Now, there's been some speculation too. Joe Brady's right now into the mix, but second in-person interview. The first person that's getting their second in-person interview is Davis Webb. And Mark Davis, whether you like him, whether you don't like him, he's always gone after what he wants. And I'm looking at right now everything I'm hearing, and I kind of think that Mark Davis wants to go after and go get Davis Webb. Here's something that happened earlier today. Bears offensive coordinator Declan Doyle has withdrawn his name from consideration for the Eagles OC vacancy. Doyle opts to remain in Chicago, working with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. The reason why that's important to Raider fans out there is all the reports out right now are that Doyle crushed that Eagles interview. What's also really important about that is there have been a lot of rumors that if the Raiders were to bring in Davis Webb, that they might be able to get Declan Doyle to be the OC because they're willing to pay a little bit more money than what the Chicago Bears are. So if you're sitting there going, wait a minute, Davis Webb could get a job. What if you could bring in Declan Doyle and then he ends up withdrawing his name? Interesting. The other part about that, who's the number one guy Tom Brady wanted last year? Ben Johnson. The fact that Doyle's been working underneath Ben Johnson, I understand he's the OC, but if you already took an interview for one job, that tells me that he might be willing to take an interview for another job. Let's go to the Schultz report. The Chargers have officially struck a deal to make Mike McDaniel their OC. Do y'all remember me saying on this show, the only way that Mike McDaniel is going to take that OC job is if he doesn't get a head coaching gig. The only head coaching gig he was up in the running for was the Raiders job. So I find it interesting that Mike McDaniel goes, all right, I'm officially going to take this deal. I think Mike McDaniel knows that he's not in the running for a head coach because I think right now all signs are pointing towards Davis Webb. Adam Schefter, literally just on the Pat McAfee show. I would think that all these be head coaching jobs will be filled this week. So they're talking about all the head coaching jobs, right? Schefter literally said on live, on the McAfee show, that he thinks every single job will be filled. Then he went on and said that I think every single job will be filled by Wednesday. That's shocking to me, right? Because if every job's going to be filled by Wednesday, I know a lot of Raider fans are going, well, what about Clint Kubiak? Well, you can interview Kubiak over, Zoom, over online. You can't have that second in-person interview. You can't hire Clint Kubiak until after the Super Bowl. So if Adam Schefter is sitting up here going, I think the Raiders' job's going to be filled by Wednesday, can't be Kubiak because you can't hire Kubiak until after the Super Bowl. So again, all signs are pointing towards Davis Webb. Let's now talk about my sources. I've had two sources reach out to me. One was on Thursday night. I talked about it on Friday. The other one was Sunday night. I talked about it this morning. My Thursday source said that the Raiders want, quote, a young, offensive, innovative head coach. Now, I can't say exactly what was told to me because my source told me I wasn't allowed to use the exact vocabulary, but based off of what he said, he goes, yeah, you can say that they're looking for a young, offensive, innovative head coach. My source that I talked to on Sunday night said that a certain Raiders owner is flying to Las Vegas on Monday, and that Raiders owner made it clear to my source that they were expecting a hire to happen on Monday. What I ended up finding out today, and we're going to keep on going through it, is that, yes, Davis Webb is a young and innovative mind, right? Plus, the Raiders are meeting with him today. So not only do you check the box here, so we got double box checks, right, from my sources. Let's take another dive a little bit deeper. This Raiders owner made it seem like they were preparing to hire a coach today. So I want to be clear, whether the Raiders hire Webb or not, the Raiders are strongly considering him. Webb ended up crushing his first interview on January 7th, though I was told originally that there was a lot of belief that that was going to be an offensive coordinator job for Mr. Webb. Now, maybe it still ends up being that. I don't think that that's going to be the case, but when there's smoke, there's fire. I also found out that my source on Thursday and my source on Sunday was talking about the exact same Raiders owner. So that means that that Raiders owner was saying one thing, that Raiders owner was saying another, and now a lot of these actions are starting to happen. Timing is everything. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And the fact that the Raiders are having this in particular owner fly to Las Vegas today, and that owner told my source that he is anticipating that the Raiders end up hiring a coach today, and the fact that Schefter goes on and says that he thinks that they're going to hire a coach by Wednesday, and you can't hire Clint Kubiak until after the Super Bowl. All signs are pointing to Davis Webb. So you tell me right now, if the Raiders go out and they hire Davis Webb to be the next head coach of the Silver and Black, what's your reaction going to be? I want to know, because I think a lot of fans, after watching Seattle just dominate offensively against the Rams in that game, there's a lot of people like, man, I want Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak's been my number one candidate from the start of this entire search before they even fired Pete Carroll. But if the Raiders hire Davis Webb, what's your reaction going to be? You're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, my answer is going to be coming up here in just a moment. Davis Webb is a young, innovative coach. Some people might consider him to be the next Sean McVay. One of the things that I've said on this show, I don't know how many times, is I want the Raiders to get the next Sean McVay. I want the Raiders to go out and get a young, innovative coach. I know that some Raiders important decision makers have watched my show in the past. I'm not saying that they're watching my show right now, but I do think a lot of the vocabulary that I've used around certain people are starting to pop up in other conversations out there. He's 31 years old. So if you're looking for literally the exact opposite of what you had in Pete Carroll, I think Davis Webb is the definition of that. Somebody that doesn't have the strongest resume. But if you really believe in that guy, then you can go out and build forward with him at 31, because Pete Carroll had this resume, but he was 74 years old. I also know that the Raiders, they want a head coach that's willing to listen to Tom Brady, that's willing to listen to John Spytek, that's willing to listen to this front office, because the front office, Brady, Spytek, owners were very, very unhappy with how Pete Carroll and that coaching staff treated the front office / decided to do their own thing. If the Raiders go out and they hire a first-time head coach in Davis Webb, somebody who's not an offensive coordinator, again, pass game coordinator, quarterback coach. If you go out and you hire a guy like that, you bet your ass they're going to be listening to Tom Brady, John Spytek in this front office. And based on what I understand, the front office, Brady and Spytek, believe that they got a plan in place to get this team back to just winning, baby. Let's keep it moving here on the show. Let's talk about the Raiders' plan, because to me, you got to have a plan, and everything has to align with that plan. I think the Raiders had a plan in the last offseason of how they wanted this team to go. They wanted to be a little bit more of a rebuild, and they wanted to build it slowly. Pete Carroll said, no, we're going to try to go out and win 10 games. Spytek might have given him a little bit of a shot when Carroll was fired. But I was told Webb crushed his first interview with the Raiders. And I was also told that his plan of what the 2026 Las Vegas Raiders and beyond are going to look like really aligned with what Brady and Spytek were thinking. Webb wants to build for the future. He knows that it's not going to be built overnight. He knows that it's not going to be something that's going to happen ASAP Rocky. But when you believe in yourself, you put a right plan in place, you can get the ball rolling in the right direction. I mean, look at what is happening right now in the NFL. I look at the Seattle Seahawks who just moved on from Pete Carroll. They're in the flipping Super Bowl. I look at a team like, the New England Patriots, hired a first-time head coach. They're in the flipping Super Bowl. I know it might seem impossible right now for Raider fans, but also the NFL proves to me every single year that anything is possible. Davis Webb, if you put that plan together and it makes sense, maybe the stars are aligned. Who knows? Maybe we make the playoffs. Let's go to the next reason here why I think Webb could be hired. AFC West experience. Anytime I've done this show, man, and I've made over 5,100 videos, we've touched, this is going to sound weird, 120 million eyeballs in the time that I've done this show. And I feel like when I talk about head coaches, because we've had 6 different head coaches since 2021, I always bring up AFC West experience. Why? I know it matters to Mark Davis. And I know Mark loves coaches, players with AFC West experience. You also would be able to steal a coach from Denver, a coach that clearly has helped the development of their young rookie quarterback or second-year quarterback in Bo Nix. Webb also is probably going to bring more coaches from Denver with him. And if you're able to pick apart a division rival that was the number 1 seed, then I don't think that's necessarily the worst idea. Maybe this is in the Raiders' mind a little bit of a cherry on top. Maybe in Mark Davis, John Spytek, and Tom Brady's mind, they're like, well, we're here. We decided to move on from Pete. Let's go swing for the fences. And I'm telling you this right now. Davis Webb is a swing for the fences. A lot of risk in it. That's what Las Vegas and Mark Davis seem to be about. Getting a little bit risky, but if you can bring in the proper OC, I'll say it right now, Davis Webb is an outstanding hire, but it's really important to build the right OC, right DC, right special teams coach around him. But it's also important for all that stuff. Speaking of importance, I'm going to say maybe the most important reason why I think Davis Webb is going to be the next Las Vegas Raiders head coach. Again, this is a show about why it could happen. I'm not saying it is going to happen, but you guys know I love smoke. You guys know I like to look at rumors. It's kind of like a little jigsaw puzzle that you can put together. But what's the number 1 question mark right now around the Raiders? I'm going to let you think about it, because I think the number 1 question mark is pretty obvious. And if you know that you could bring in somebody that's had a lot of success with that number 1 question mark, when you think about doing it, I think the Raiders are thinking about doing it. And if you're thinking about getting started with our sponsor, Prize Picks, stop thinking and get it going right now. The big game, it's almost here. And there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Do you miss fantasy football? I know I personally do. Prize Picks lets you play fantasy football every week, so you can pick your favorite players, and when they win, you can hit your projections, and you keep it rolling. Get in on the action. It's now available in all 50 states. So download the Prize Picks app today. Make sure that you use code CLNS to be able to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it feels good to be right. I want to say this. I don't have a big game lineup yet, but that's because we're pretty far away. The closer and closer we get, I'll be able to sit up here and tell you what I want to do. I mean, I'm already looking. Sam Darnold, 229.5 pass yards. Drake May, 224.5. Drake May's got a goblin pick for a touchdown. JSN, 93.5. I'm telling you this right now. We're going to go full-on Weldinator style with this Prize Picks lineup, and we're going to make sure that we got a big old lineup ready to rock and roll. And my final reason why I believe Davis Webb could be hired. Remember when I asked, what's that biggest question mark? The biggest question mark right now around the Las Vegas Raiders is that future quarterback, that franchise quarterback. Well, we got the number 1 overall pick. And when you look at the quarterback development that Davis Webb has been a part of, you got to sit back and you got to go, yeah, that's really impressive. Right now, he's learning underneath Sean Payton and has done a great job with Bo Nix in his first 2 years in the NFL. The Raiders are expected to draft Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy national undefeated champion out of Indiana, number 1 overall. And also, Webb played quarterback in college and in the NFL. He played at college at Texas Tech. He also played at Cal. You know who also played a little quarterback at Cal? That's right, Mendoza. But the fact that he's got college and NFL quarterback experience, and now you're seeing a lot of the QBs that he's worked with, whether that be college, whether that be as a backup or as a coach, a lot of those quarterbacks had some of their best years when Davis Webb was a part of the equation. Let's first talk about Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. I'm not going to sit up here and say Davis Webb made Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is obviously an unbelievable athlete. They are incredible. But what I do find interesting is that Webb learned underneath Cliff Kingsbury at Tech from 2013 to 2015. Whether you can say what you want about Cliff, I think we can all agree on this. Cliff might not be the best dude, but he's really good with X's and O's, and he's always been a really good coach in terms of quarterback development. Also, Mahomes has mentioned before how Davis Webb helped him in college turn into a little bit more of a professional and really get the ball rolling for his own personal growth. Because, again, Mahomes knew he had talent. It's just, how do you take that talent, capitalize on it, and then go to the next step? So the fact that he worked with Patrick Mahomes from 2014 to 2015, and again, I'm not saying that that's the reason, but when you work with somebody and you're around somebody that is very, very talented, and then you start looking around, there's a common denominator, and it's Davis flipping Webb. Let's look at the New York Jets quarterback situation in 2018. Now, this one's not very pretty from an actual on-field performance standpoint in Sam Darnold, but Davis Webb, when he was a member of the New York Jets in 2018, was on the same roster as Sam Darnold. Obviously, Sam Darnold now is going to be in Super Bowl 60. He's doing a lot of great things. But I think what's important about that is you can see what an organization did. I get it. They drafted him number 3 overall, not number 1 overall. But what's important is you can see what an organization did to fail a clearly talented quarterback. You don't want to do those same things that you saw the Jets do, so that way you don't implement those exact same things in Las Vegas with Fernando Mendoza. Also, though, guess who was on that team? Josh McCown. Josh McCown right now is one of these up-and-coming offensive-minded coaches that's getting some OC buzz, and McCown is currently the quarterback coach for the Minnesota Vikings. I'll be real. I kind of sit back and I wonder, if the Raiders hire Webb, could you also potentially bring in a Josh McCown, a name that I heard when the Raiders were looking at Brian Flores a little bit. Also on top of that, Todd Bowles was the head coach of the 2018 Jets. That's a John Spytek connection. So when you're looking at all of these connections, you're adding it up. I find it interesting. Now, we got some more quarterback connections coming up here in just a moment. And really, this is where it starts to get juicy. Before I get into that, though, if anybody wants to hang out with me and Jeremy Chuggs, I am going to be in San Jose, California. Never been out there. Hopefully you guys show up and show out. Friday, February 6th from 7 to 10 p.m. I think we're going to be there a little bit later. Call to reserve your spot right now. Fairway Zone Sports Bar and Lounge. It's going to be a party. So make sure you get ready to rock and roll. Let's go to the next quarterback development that Davis Webb was a part of, and that's Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. Again, I'm not saying that Davis Webb was the reason why Josh Allen is who he is. Obviously, you got to give some credit there to Brian Dable. Maybe they can bring him in. Maybe you bring in Joe Brady, who's currently in Las Vegas. But Webb was a backup to Allen from 2019 to 2021. Allen in 2018 had a 52.8% completion percentage, 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. He looked raw. He didn't look anywhere close to the Josh Allen that you see right now. And then Allen showed some great growth once Webb was in Buffalo. So in 2018, Davis Webb ain't there. Now you add Davis Webb into that quarterback room, and who knows, maybe you're really able to help out Josh Allen, learn what it takes to be a great NFL quarterback. Just because you can't play the QB position doesn't mean that you don't know the QB position. Just because you didn't play at a high level your 6 years of the NFL doesn't mean that you don't fully understand what it takes to be a great quarterback. And maybe for a guy like Webb, where he saw Patrick Mahomes, he saw Sam Darnold, Josh McCown, then he's like, all right, well, I saw how McCown interacted with Darnold. Wonder if I act like that type of player for a guy like Josh Allen. And Allen has said multiple times that a lot of people in that Bills organization helped him be the best quarterback that he can possibly be. Let's go to the New York Giants here in 2022. This was the final year that he was in the NFL as a quarterback, and he was the third-string quarterback with the Giants behind Tyrod Taylor and Daniel Jones. The reason why I bring this up is because in 2022, Daniel Jones had by far his best season of his career. The year that the Giants won a playoff game. The year that Daniel Jones ended up signing a 4-year, I want to say it was like $160 million contract with the Giants. He had his by far best season. By far best season. Davis Webb leaves, and then Daniel Jones is terrible. Again, I'm not saying it's only up on Davis Webb, but the more and more I went through and I started combing through the web, and I started combing through what quarterbacks were doing well, which ones aren't, a very common factor was Davis Webb was inserted to the equation. Guy started playing well. When Webb was taken away from that equation, he wasn't playing as well. So I think one of the concerns that a lot of Raider fans have out there is like, all right, if we're going to have Mendoza, we only have Aiden O'Connell. The term I always hear is bridge, bridge, bridge. What if you didn't need a bridge quarterback? Because you don't have that money to, let's say, go out and spend a free agents here in the draft because you want to use that in all your other holes. What if you were a Raiders team that goes, what if we could add a bridge quarterback? He'd also be our head coach because he's done it so many damn times. Let's now go to the final one here, okay? And this is Bo Nix. And what he's been able to do as a coach for the Denver Broncos is very, very impressive. And I'm not the biggest believer in Bo Nix. I have said up here on this show, and I said the only team that I think Nix is going to have success with is with Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. And Nix has been a great system quarterback in his first 2 years. He has totally done a lot more than I ever thought was possible, and I think Sean Payton deserves a lot of credit for that. I think Lombardi deserves a lot of credit for that. I think Davis Webb deserves a lot of credit for that. And Stidham, I personally think that he looked pretty serviceable before the weather really took over in that AFC Championship game. I mean, think about that drive where it's 3rd down and 10, 52 yards down the field to Marvin Mims. Ball gets completed. Broncos score a touchdown the first 5 minutes of the game. Yes, I want to give some credit to, the defense of New England. They started to shut them down a little bit. But then in the second half, the weather just took over. It was one of the quickest games in AFC Conference Championship history because the weather just took all the fun out of it. But before the weather really got crazy, I thought Davis Webb did a pretty damn decent job with Jarrett Stidham. So before I go out of here, first thing I got to say is this. The Buffalo Bills have literally just completed their interview with Davis Webb, which means the only other interview that Webb's got scheduled today, in person. Second interview in Las Vegas. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And if this smoke ends up leading the fire, you already know. I'm going to be live. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on, whether you like the Webb hire or not. I'll say this. If you wanted a young, innovative head coach and you believe in Tom Brady, you believe in John Spytek, you believe in this organization, you got to have hope, because I'll be real with you. I don't care if we were to hire Clint Kubiak. I don't care if we were to hire Jesus Christ himself. As a Raiders fan, I'm always going to be, I got to wait and see what happens. No matter what hire it's going to be, you're going to sit back and go, we got to wait and see what happens. If you want a young, innovative, offensive-minded head coach that's got a beautiful track record with a quarterback and a great connection with a lot of other good OC and DC coaches, I think you should be pretty damn fired up about Davis Webb being the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.